I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about how I found out my wife was cheating on me, but here I am. Her name's Lisa, and we've been married for about 7 years now. We met in college. She was the kind of girl who could charm the pants off anyone, and I was just lucky enough to be the guy she settled with. She's always been a bit bitchy, honestly, quick to dismiss anyone who doesn't meet her standards, but I loved her, or at least I thought I did. When we first got married, everything seemed pretty good. We had our routines, our little world. I was the guy who organized the weekly trivia nights at our favorite local pub for charity, something I thought was kind of a big deal. It was a weekly thing, a way to give back, and honestly, I enjoyed it. It brought a lot of us together, and I was proud of what we did. But over the past 6 months, I started noticing little things. She'd be more irritable, snapping at me over nothing. She'd go out for girls' nights and come back late, smelling different, a little too happy. She'd brush off my questions, saying I was overthinking or being paranoid. Still, I trusted her. She'd always been a good liar when she wanted to be, spinning stories about work trips or friends' birthdays, but I knew there was something she wasn't telling me. Then came the signs I simply couldn't ignore. Her phone started acting weird. She'd hide it when I came into the room, even change her password. The late nights out turned into more frequent absences, and I'd catch her lying about her whereabouts. One night she forgot to hide her phone. I saw a message pop up from someone named Jake, saying, "Can't wait to see you again tonight." It hit me like a punch in the gut. I didn't say anything right away. I guess I wanted to see if I was just imagining things. It wasn't just the messages. Her mood shifted sharply whenever we talked about our plans or the charity nights I organized. She'd roll her eyes and brush me off, throwing in snide remarks like, "You're so obsessed with your stupid trivia nights," or, "Why do you even care? It's not like I cheat on you." Yeah, she said that once with a nasty smirk on her face like it was supposed to hurt me, but honestly I was just starting to see the real her. One evening I decided to check her phone again. I knew I shouldn't have, but I was desperate for answers. I went through her messages, nothing explicit at first, just some flirty exchanges, a few suggestive jokes. Then I found a message from Jake, the guy she'd been talking about. She told me he was just a coworker, maybe a friend she hung out with sometimes. But the message was more than that. It was clear they'd been seeing each other, probably for months. They'd been sneaking around during her girls' nights, probably planning to meet up afterward. That was the moment everything changed. I felt this mix of anger, betrayal, and disbelief swirling inside me. I wanted to scream, to cry, to call her out right then and there. But I knew I had to confront her face to face. I needed her to own up to what she'd done. The truth was out, and there was no way I could pretend everything was fine anymore. The next day I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling back to that message, to the way she lied so effortlessly. I felt sick, like I'd been punched in the stomach, but I also knew I couldn't just sit there and do nothing. I decided I'd confront her that night. I wanted her to face the fallout of what she'd done, to see the damage she'd caused. When she got home from work, she looked annoyed, as usual. She snapped at me when I asked how her day was, but I didn't bother pretending I was okay. I told her I needed to talk. Her eyes narrowed and she rolled her eyes like I was wasting her time. "What now?" she spat. "Just get it over with." I took a deep breath and laid the phone on the table. I showed her the message. Her face froze for a second, then she sneered. "That's not what it looks like," she said quickly, trying to brush it off. "Jake's just a coworker. We're just friends. You're overreacting." She crossed her arms, leaning back in a way that made her look superior, like she thought she was winning already. I didn't buy it. I told her I knew everything about the nights she was out late, the flirty texts, the secret meetings. Her face twisted in a look of pure contempt. "You're crazy," she said. "You're just insecure. If you had any idea what I do for this marriage, you wouldn't be accusing me of cheating." Her voice was dripping with sarcasm, ice cold. It was like she was trying to turn the tables, make me doubt myself. But I knew the truth. The worst part was her lies. She kept denying, insisting she never cheated, that I was paranoid. She called me crazy, said I was making a mountain out of a molehill. I watched her lie right in my face, and I felt every ounce of my patience and trust drain out. It was surreal. I wondered how she could be so callous, so indifferent to how much she was hurting me. I felt a surge of anger and sadness. I wanted to shake her, make her see how much she'd hurt us both. Instead, I just sat there silent, watching her spin her web of lies. Deep down, I knew this wasn't going to be an easy fix. I never thought I'd be one of those guys who gets blindsided like this, but the reality hit hard. I realized that my wife, the woman I loved and trusted, had been lying and cheating behind my back for months, maybe longer. The betrayal was huge, and suddenly my entire world felt off balance. I didn't know what to do next, but I knew I couldn't pretend everything was okay anymore. After that confrontation, everything changed. I couldn't look at her the same way. The trust was shattered beyond repair. I'd always been the kind of guy who believed in honesty, in loyalty, in sticking things out. But this was a different level of betrayal. I felt like I'd been played for a fool. My mind kept racing, trying to figure out how I hadn't seen the signs earlier, how I'd been so blind to what was right in front of me. That night I stayed up, drinking a little too much, trying to process everything. Everything about her attitude, her sneering lies, the way she thought she could keep everything hidden from me. It dawned on me that I'd been giving her the benefit of the doubt for too long. I'd always thought she was just busy or stressed. Turns out she'd been sneaking around with Jake during our supposed normal evenings, laughing about how easy it was to hide it from me. That realization made me feel sick. She had no remorse, no guilt, just a bitchy attitude that she was above the rules, above me. Over the next few days, I found myself spiraling. I'd see her texting on her phone, quickly hiding it when I got close. She started avoiding me more, brushing past me like I was some inconvenience. I caught her sneaking out of the house late at night, slipping her phone into her pocket like it was a secret weapon. I felt like I was losing my mind. How could she do this? How could she sit there and lie so effortlessly like she was the victim in all of this? One night, I decided I'd had enough. I was going to catch her in the act. I set up a little hidden camera in our living room, near her favorite spot on the couch. I wanted to see what she was doing when she thought I wasn't watching. That night I stayed awake, staring at the footage on my phone. It took only minutes to see her sneaking in, tiptoeing around, texting someone. Then I saw her grab her purse and slip out the door, probably to meet Jake again. The image seared into my mind, but what hurt the most was the look on her face when she thought she was alone. That cold, confident sneer, like she was untouchable. She was just so effortlessly dishonest. I realized that my wife was no longer the woman I thought I knew. She was a stranger, someone who lied, cheated, and manipulated her way through our marriage like it was nothing. That's when I started planning my next move. I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I needed to confront her again, but this time with everything out in the open. I felt a mixture of rage, heartbreak, and a strange sense of clarity. I'd been a good guy for too long, trying to believe the best about her, but now I saw her for what she really was. And I knew this was going to end one way or another. I just didn't know if I was ready for what was coming next. The confrontation that followed was the kind of thing you replay in your head 100 times, trying to figure out if there was some way to avoid it or if I should have handled it differently. But deep down, I knew there was no going back. I had the evidence, I had the truth, and I had to face her. I called her into the living room that evening, and she looked annoyed, like I was bothering her big plans for the night. She had her usual bitchy smirk, like she was already in control of the situation. I didn't waste time. I threw the phone on the coffee table and told her I knew everything. Her eyes widened for a split second, then the smirk returned like she thought she could just brush me off. "What are you talking about?" she snapped. "You're crazy. You're just trying to ruin everything because you're insecure." I pointed to the footage on my phone, which I had secretly recorded from the night before. "This," I said coldly, "this is what you've been hiding. You've been sneaking out, meeting Jake, lying to my face. How long has this been going on?" Her face turned red, then pale. She tried to deny, but I knew better. I saw it in her eyes, the guilt, the defiance. She kept insisting it was nothing, just a stupid fling, and that she didn't mean to hurt me. That she was just bored, or maybe that she was trying to get back at me because I'd been busy with my charity nights. She threw in a lot of excuses, a lot of lies, but none of it made sense anymore. The woman I married was just a stranger, and I felt like my entire world was crumbling. What really hit me was how she kept turning it around, saying I was the problem, that I was overreacting, that I was paranoid, that I was insecure. She said she never loved Jake, that it was just sex, that she was just messing around to feel something different. Yeah, right. That's what they all say. I remember the anger boiling inside me, but I held it back. I told her she was a bitch, that I couldn't believe I wasted years on someone who didn't give a shit about me. I told her I was done, that I'd be leaving soon. She scoffed, telling me I was being dramatic, that I was overreacting, that she'd never do anything to ruin us. But I knew better. I could see it in her eyes, the cold, calculating look of someone who thought she was smarter than everyone else. That night after she'd gone to bed, I sat there, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything. I'd never felt so betrayed in my life. I thought about the times I'd come home from work, tired but happy, trying to make things work. And she was out with Jake, probably having sex all those nights. No wonder she'd been so bitchy, so dismissive. She'd been cheating on me right under my nose, and I'd been too blind to see it. I knew I had to make a decision. I had two choices: forgive her and try to save this mess, or walk away. Honestly, I felt like I was already walking away in my mind, but I wasn't ready to face the aftermath. I was furious, broken, and tired all at once. The betrayal cut deep, and I wondered how I'd ever trust her again. I just wanted it to be over one way or another. I didn't want to live in this pain forever, but I also didn't know if I could just forget what she did. The days that followed were a blur of emotion. I stayed home from work, trying to process everything while she went about her usual routines, acting like nothing had changed. But I knew better. I saw her sneaking around, texting on her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. Her attitude was even more bitchy, dismissive, like she was trying to push me away before I could do it myself. Honestly, I was torn between wanting to confront her again or just walking out the door and never looking back. One afternoon, I finally decided I'd had enough. I told her straight up I was done pretending. I wanted her out of the house. Either she was going to tell the truth and own up to everything, or she could leave and face the consequences. Her face twisted into that familiar smirk, like she was already planning her next move. She spat at me. "You're overreacting. You're just insecure. I don't owe you an explanation." I lost my temper then. I told her she was a lying, cheating bitch and I wasn't going to be played anymore. I told her I'd been betrayed, humiliated, and that I no longer trusted her. I demanded she pack her things and leave. She looked at me like I was crazy, like she thought I'd back down, but I wasn't going to. This was it. The final straw. That night she packed her bags and stormed out, leaving behind her false smiles and her bullshit excuses. I watched her drive off, feeling every bit of my heart break into 1,000 pieces. It was a weird mix: relief, anger, sadness, and even a strange sense of clarity. I knew this wasn't the end of it, but I also knew I had been played by someone I once loved, and I'd never get that back. Living alone after she left was almost worse than the betrayal itself. The house felt emptier than ever, like the walls held her lies. I kept replaying everything in my head: her sneaky texts, her bitchy attitude, all those nights she cheated and lied. I'd never felt so stupid, so naive. But deep down, I also felt a strange sense of liberation. I was finally free from her manipulations, from the constant stress of pretending everything was okay. In the end, I learned a lot about trust and deception. I realized that sometimes the person you love the most can hurt you the deepest. And while I don't regret confronting her or ending things outright, I do wish I'd seen the signs sooner. Maybe I could have saved myself some heartbreak. But now, all I can do is pick up the pieces and try to move on. It's going to take time, but I know I'll get there. I just hope others out there don't ignore the signs like I did, thinking a little lie or a secret text isn't a big deal, because it is. It's everything. Now, looking back, I realize how much I let her bullshit slide for too long. The signs were there, but I was so damn eager to believe in us and her that I ignored all the red flags. The worst part is I kept making excuses, telling myself she was just stressed or tired, that she loved me really. But the truth hit harder than I expected. The person I thought I knew had been turning into someone else, someone who lied, cheated, and manipulated her way through our marriage. Living alone has been a bitter pill. The house feels colder, emptier. Every corner, every piece of furniture reminds me of what I lost, of what I thought was real. But honestly, it's also a strange relief. No more sneaky texts, no more fake smiles, no more feeling like I was walking on eggshells every time I asked her where she was. I finally see her for what she was, a bitchy, selfish woman who thought she could get away with anything. I've started to rebuild my life piece by piece. I've gone back to doing things that made me happy before she came along, hiking, hanging out with friends, focusing on my work. It's slow, but I feel stronger every day. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that I can't control who cheats and lies, but I can control how I respond. I don't need her bullshit, her lies, or her ego. I need to take care of myself to find peace again. To anyone reading this who might be in a similar situation, my advice is simple. Don't ignore the signs. Don't make the mistake I did of brushing things off or convincing yourself it's not that bad. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. It hurts like hell, but staying will only hurt more in the long run. Be honest with yourself. Love yourself enough to walk away if that's what it takes. In the end, betrayal teaches you a lot about resilience. It's not about revenge or punishment. It's about reclaiming your life, your dignity, and your happiness. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I'm done living in the shadow of her lies. And honestly, that's the biggest victory I could ask for.